tertiary and primary sector. In the previous classes we discussed about economical activities and the method of collecting or calculating GDP of our country. Today we are discussing some more important facts about tertiary and primary sector, and you will be learning about secondary sector in your geography topic. Before starting today's class, let us see one graph or data represented in a graph.
Dear children, we can see a graph showing the share of sectors in GDP. The first bar graph shows the percentage of GDP in 1973 to 74 period. The second one shows the share of percentage in GDP in 2013-14. The first graph, 1973-74 graph, shows that primary sector in India contributes about 40% of GDP towards country's economy, and secondary sector contributes 10% of income, and 40% of income, that is shown in the green color, contributes from tertiary sector. And the second graph, that means 2013-14 period, 10% of income, blue color shows the income of primary sector, that is 10% of income from primary sector, 20% of income from secondary sector, and about 70% income from the tertiary sector. From this graph we can understand that in India at present, tertiary sector provides more GDP towards country's economy, and the tertiary sector contributes more valuable products, that means valuable services, and than secondary and primary sector. In India, tertiary sector is more important than other two sectors. And the second graph shows the share of sectors in employment, that means how many people working in these three sectors. In first graph, 1970-73 period, you can see that about 70% of people worked in primary sector. Blue color shows the number of people working in the primary sector. In 1972-73 period, about 70% of people worked in primary sector, and the 10% of people worked in secondary sector, about 15% of people worked in secondary sector. And 2011-12 period, you can see that here about 50% of worked in primary sector, and 24% work in secondary sector, and 27% of people work in employed in tertiary sector. That means more number of people working in primary sector than secondary and tertiary sector. In this graph shows the number of employers, people working in this sector. From this we can understand that in India more number of people working in primary sector more than secondary and tertiary sector. Number of people working in this primary sector is more than secondary and tertiary sector. In the previous class we have seen that, previous graph we have seen that the production comes from the primary sector is less than the production from the tertiary sector, but number of people working in the tertiary sector is less. Is it okay? Number of people working in the primary sector are more, but they produce less. Number of people working in the tertiary sector is less, but they produce more. That means in the primary sector more number of people are working, but they produce less. Here we can understand two important facts. In India, tertiary sector produce more share of income towards GDP, which is very important. The second one is more number of people working in the primary sector, but production from this sector is low. In this session, we are finding out the answers of these two different questions. One is, why is tertiary sector is becoming more important in India? What are the reasons? The second one is more number of people working in the primary sector, but production less. Why? What are the problems of primary sector in India? We are finding out the answers of these two questions in today's class.
Children, as we have discussed, the tertiary sector is very important in India. Or tertiary sector produce large amount of income towards GDP. There are many reasons behind the rising popularity of tertiary sector in India. We are discussing the factors or reasons behind the growth of tertiary sector now. The first point is, the first reason behind the tertiary sector is provision of basic services. Provision of basic services. Provision of basic services. In a democratic country, it is the responsibility of the government to provide basic services to the people. In a democratic country, is the people's own government, and that's why the government of that country which provide different facilities to the people, such as educational facilities, health facilities, banking, etc. These duty or responsibility of the government to provide these facilities to the people at a minimum cost resulted the growth of service providing sector or tertiary sector like banking, education, etc. That is the first important reason, the provision of basic services. The second important reason behind the importance of tertiary sector in India is the development of primary and secondary sector. Development of primary and secondary sector. As we discussed in the previous class, all these economical sectors are interrelated or interdependent. The development of primary and secondary also leads to the development of tertiary sector. When the production from the primary sector increases, it leads to the development of secondary sector. And the production from the secondary sector increases or primary sector increases, it also leads to the development of tertiary sector. That means the farmers or the workers in the primary sector need to transport the raw material and finished products from field to markets or from markets to their field. The same way, manufacturers need to transport their raw material and finished products to markets. That's why they depend on different types of service providing sectors such as trade, communication, transportation, etc. This also leads to the higher growing popularity of importance of tertiary sector. The development of primary and secondary leads to the development of tertiary sector. The third point is rise in income. Rise in income status of the people. Increasing income status of the people also affects the development of tertiary sector. Nothing is to mention more. If we have money, we may think about more other facilities in our life. Okay, if we have money, we may think about the private sector or private school, private hospital, tourism, etc. These income status of the people, increasing level of income of the people, which may also indirectly leads to the development of tertiary sector. And that is the next point. The fourth point is, last point is the development of information and communication technology. Development of information and communication technology. Development of information and communication technology also leads to the development of tertiary sector. And now we are using this mobile phone or we are depending on these online classes and other devices. These different facilities which are provided by the tertiary sector or tertiary services which also increase the development or popularity of importance of tertiary sector in India. And development of information and communication technology also affects the development of tertiary sector in India. These are the four important points which leads to the higher popularity of tertiary sector in India. Next we are discussing about the primary sector. As we have seen, the primary sector in India employ large number of people. As data we have studied now reveals that in India more number of people working in the primary sector, but production comes from this sector is less. They produce less but more number of people working in this. That means you can see a contradiction. If the number of the people working in this primary sector is more, definitely they can produce more. But in India, the primary sector produces less income towards GDP. And what are the reasons of this condition in Indian primary sector? What we are discussing now. I hope that it is clear to you. And the first point is in India, many people working in the primary sector are seasonally unemployed. And you don't forget the question what we are discussing. The question is, why can't the people working in the primary sector produce more? The number of workers are more but the production is less. Because the first point is, the people working in the primary sector, many people are seasonally unemployed. That means seasonal unemployment is very common in the primary sector. See, one reason behind this is seasonal unemployment. We have already learned this unemployment and different types of unemployment in the previous year. Seasonal unemployment is a unemployment or situation in which the people are getting job only during certain season. All other season people will remain without job. And then in primary sector, people are getting or farmers are getting job especially during certain season. For example, sowing season or harvesting season. All other season they will remain jobless. That means this seasonal nature of the primary sector which leads the total production. People are apparently working but they get a job in certain season only. That means seasonal unemployment is one of the important reasons behind this condition in primary sector. The second one is, many people working in this primary sector are underemployed. Underemployment is the second important factor. Underemployment. Many people working in the primary sector are underemployed. Underemployment is a situation in which a person does a work but he does not get a job in which he can express his full potential. Person is apparently working, they are visibly working but they do not get a job where he can or they can express their full potential. That means many number of people are working in the primary sector but these number of people have the capacity to produce more income or more products. And that's why, but they are working because they do not have any other job facilities in other sector. That's why they depend on primary sector. And this underemployment, this nature of the primary sector also leads the total less production in primary sector. People working in the primary sector some people are underemployed. That means the people are apparently working but they get less production. That means they have the capacity to produce more. That situation is called as underemployment. And the next is, the third point is, some people working in the primary sector are disguised unemployed. Disguised unemployed. Disguised unemployment is another important feature of the primary sector. Disguised unemployment is a situation in which more number of people working in a sector than what actually it requires. That means many people are working but they produce less. For example, if a plot needs the work of 10 people, 10 workers, 15 number of people, 15 people are working. Actually the plot needs the work of 10 people, but 15 are working and 5 are extra there. That means these 5 people do not depend or do not affect the total production. If you remove these 5 people, extra people, production will not increase or decrease. They are apparently working, but they do not produce any income. That situation is called as disguised unemployment. Many number of people working in the agricultural sector are disguised unemployed. That means more number of people are working in that sector than actually what it requires. That is another important problem of this primary sector. This also affects the total production. That means some people are seasonally unemployed, some people are underemployed, many people are disguised unemployed. And we can see that all the seasonal unemployment, underemployment and disguised unemployment is fully different from the open unemployment. Open unemployment is unemployment. It is different from open unemployment. Open unemployment or unemployment means it is a situation in which a person does not get a job, or he is capable or willing to work but no work. That condition is called as unemployment. Unemployment is a situation in which people do not have any work. But these situations, seasonal, under and disguised unemployment, people are visibly working, but the production, they do not, or production comes from this sector is less. These 3 situations also leads to the less production in the primary sector. That's why primary sector in India produce less income towards GDP, but many number of people are working. I hope it is clear to you, and we can summarize these points again.
Dear children, let us recall the point what we have learned now. The point is, question what we have discussed is the rising importance of tertiary sector. What are the causes of reasons of rising importance of tertiary sector in India? And the answer is, the first point, the provision of basic services. The government has a responsibility to provide the basic services to the people such as education, health, banks, etc. In a democratic country, it is the duty of the government, responsibility of the government to provide basic services such as education, health to the people. That's why they set up more and more service providing sector, and which resulted the importance of popularity of more tertiary sector or service providing sector in India. The second point is the development of agriculture and industry. The development of industry and agriculture leads to the development of services such as transport, trade, etc. In the previous classes, we have seen that all the economical sectors are interrelated and interdependent. The development of primary sector and secondary sector leads to the development of tertiary sector also. The people working in these 2 sectors, industrial and agricultural sector, needed more and more service providing sector to increase their production. That's why the tertiary sector is also developing. Third point is rise in income. As income level of the people rises, the certain sections of the people demanding services like tourism, shopping, private schools, etc. If we have money, we may think about more and more facilities in our life. This income level, increase in income level also rises, also leads the development of other service providing sectors like a private institution, shopping, tourism, etc. The last point is development of information and communication technology. Over the past decade, certain services such as information and communication technology have become very essential. And more information and communication technology IT centers are there in India, which provide easier jobs and high paid jobs which attract the people. So this development of these IT industrial sectors also leads to development of rising importance of tertiary sector in India. Dear children, next important question we have discussed now. What is the condition of primary sector? Why the production from the primary sector is low in India? We can see the points or reasons behind this important fact in India. In India, more number of people are working in the primary sector, but production is less. There are some reasons behind this. The first point is many people are seasonally unemployed. The seasonal unemployment is a situation in which people get a job only during certain season. Seasonal unemployment means a situation in which people do not find any jobs during certain season. And this seasonal unemployment nature of this primary sector which leads or affects the production rate of primary sector. That was the first point. The second point is many people are underemployed. The situation of underemployment. The underemployment is a situation in which a person does not get a job in which he can express his full potential. There are many people working in this agricultural sector and they have the capacity to get good job in other sectors, but they are working in the primary sector, and if they get a job they can produce more and more, they can earn more and more income, but there are no that much facilities or job opportunities are not present in other sector. This situation in the primary sector leads the total production of primary sector too. Next important reason is disguised unemployment. Many people are working in the primary sector are disguised unemployed. The disguised unemployment is a situation in which number of people employed in a job are more than what is required. In agricultural sector, many number of people are working than actually it requires. And for example, if a field needs the work of 10 people, 15 are working. That means 5 people working in that field are extra. If you remove these 5 people, production will not suffer or will not affect. That means these 5 people are disguised unemployed. This disguised unemployment affects the total production of primary sector.